Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. We are going to wait just a few more minutes to get started. In the meantime, we're going to show this ad that the UserWay guys had produced from the voice of Siri. So while we're waiting, we'll watch this. Allon, you want to take it away?
All right, thank you, Russ, for that. And let's take a look at the voice of Siri talking about UserWay. So here we go.
Hi, I'm Susan Bennett, the original voice behind the world's most famous assistant, Siri. Being a famous voice assistant is truly a privilege. At the next intersection, take a left. I like to help people. It's just who I am. Seriously, everyone. That bagel has 290 calories. But as much as I try, there are 1 billion people I cannot assist. People with disabilities. Millions of websites around the world don't work for them. Making your website accessible is not just the law, it's also really simple. By adding 1 line of code to your site, you can make the experience better for everyone. Visit userway.org to see how simple it is to make your website accessible.
Honey, have you seen my parking?
All right. Let's go ahead and jump on in. Thank you everyone for joining today. Just want to do a quick sound check, make sure you guys can hear us okay. You can just type in the questions box, give us a thumbs up. That would be awesome. Today, I'm really excited to introduce UserWay, one of our newest applications in the Duda App Store. UserWay is well known within the industry, and a lot of folks on the Duda side had actually organically started using UserWay even before they integrated into the platform. So really excited to have both Allon and Ben joining us today from UserWay. Allon, if you can jump to the next slide here. Just by way of introductions, my name is Russ Jeffrey. I'm responsible for our App Store integrations and kind of partnerships here at Duda. And today we're joined by both Allon and Ben from UserWay. Allon and Ben, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. So nice to meet you. Thank you, Russ, for that intro. My name is Allon Mason, and I'm the CEO here at UserWay. I'm responsible also for product strategy and development, and really excited to be sharing the UserWay integration and the background about our company and the value that UserWay provides to your websites as far as ADA compliance with you today. So thank you again for all the attendees on today's webinar.
Yep, and I'm Ben. I'm the senior sales engineer at UserWay. I also work closely with partnerships and platforms integrations, and excited to share our product with you.
Great. Let's go ahead and jump into our agenda here. And so today, what we're just going to be covering is a little bit of background about who is UserWay, what is website accessibility, how UserWay approaches this in the market. We do have some information about kind of lawsuits as well that are going on in the industry that are pretty prominent today and will probably increase in prominence, especially in the United States. Then we'll get into just a quick demo of the integration, what it looks like, what you can expect when you use that through Duda. And then we'll also cover just the pricing as well at the end. Please feel free to ask questions along the way. I'll be monitoring all of the questions. So if you want to ask those, we'll save most of them towards the end. But if it is relevant, I will jump in and interrupt both Allon and Ben. And finally, just one piece of housekeeping. We are recording, so we will send this out after if you want to share it with a colleague or you have to leave early. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Allon and let him kind of lead the presentation here. Allon, take it away.
Great, thank you very much, Russ. So just a few words about UserWay. Most of you may have already heard about accessibility and ADA and why having an accessible website is important, especially as an agency. If you're managing dozens or larger agencies, thousands of websites for your customers, then you need to be aware that the law requires your website to be accessible and compliant. And when I say the law, I do mean in the US, this is ADA or federal law. websites are considered places of public accommodation. So just like a public park, a hotel lobby, or a restaurant entrance, a website that provides information, content, or services must also be made accessible to people with various types of disabilities. In Europe, this law is referred to as EN 301549. Anyone working with the federal government is required to adhere to Section 508, which is also accessibility laws. And all of these are based on the WCAG, or the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And this is kind of the envelope of services that UserWay provides to ensure that your website is compliant. And we do so in many ways. So we'll cover some of those today. And again, feel free, please, for any of the attendees to stop and interrupt if you do have any questions, and we'll be more than happy to answer those. So with UserWay, we do cover a variety of different types of disabilities, and we enable people with various types of disabilities to better engage and consume the content and services on your site. So everyone from visually impaired, blind, dyslexia, people with epilepsy and photosensitivities, people with learning disabilities, language acquisition disabilities, hearing impaired, and many, many more. So UserWay is a veteran of the digital accessibility industry and creating innovative accessibility technologies for the past 5-6 years, and we're installed in over 1.4 million websites. So we are the most popular, and people just love coming to websites with UserWay. It makes their online experience so much easier and more effective. And our technology is just loaded tens of millions of times per day across the internet. So why is web accessibility important? Why is there such an increase in awareness around web accessibility? So first of all, you're here, and that already says something, that you have maybe read an article or heard about this, or had one of your clients request their website to be accessible. But one of the other reasons is there are skyrocketing number of lawsuits around web digital accessibility, and we'll touch upon what the graph of that looks like in just a minute. So there's additional awareness, but also the population is kind of, the average age is increasing around the population in the US and globally. And especially if you look at what happened with COVID over the past couple of years, people were sort of restrained in their homes, and what they were used to doing physically by going out to the pharmacy, now they're doing that online. They're going out, to meet friends. Now they're doing that on Zoom or Google Meet. And more of the traditional kind of physical services have now become digital, and people are relying on them. So accessibility is becoming that much more critical in our day-to-day lives. So moving forward and just looking at the trend around lawsuits, we're seeing lawsuits increase consistently year over year. 2020 hit, just with web accessibility lawsuits, 2020 hit over 11,000 lawsuits. And again, these regulations are being enforced today, not only in the US, but around the world. And again, every website must comply. Now, if you get called out, or you get a demand letter or lawsuit for your website being inaccessible, then what we're looking at is the law can actually fine you $4,000 per violation. And so we're seeing websites with hundreds or thousands of violations. And settlements generally for like smaller SMBs can range between $5K to $150K, and lawsuits in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, with larger organizations being exposed to lawsuits in the millions. So the legal protection that UserWay provides really is critical kind of in today's market. Now, if we look at just the amount of press around digital accessibility, it is everywhere. If you just search for lawsuits around web accessibility, you'll see them everywhere. On mainstream media, there are class action lawsuits, and the awareness around this is percolating into pretty much every level and layer in business today. So not only with enterprises, but it's hitting mid-market and SMBs just as well. So one really important thing to note about accessibility and UserWay in general, there's something called the curb cut effect. So many years ago, through the ADA, a law was passed to ensure that the curbs have a cut, so that people with wheelchairs can be able to go down and up and cross the street comfortably and safely. Now, the curb cut effect allows not only people with disabilities to enjoy this enhancement or this law that was passed in their daily lives, but it helps everyone. So it helps people with bikes, people with shopping carts, with baby strollers, walking with suitcases. Everyone benefits from a more accessible experience in the physical world, but also clearly in the digital world. So that's what we're seeing happen today with web accessibility online as well. And this is called the curb cut effect. So when we design for disabilities and cater for people with disabilities, it really is everyone that benefits from it. So even if you have an eye infection and you're not seeing well and you want to change the contrast on the screen, then you're able to do that because a law was passed for someone with a disability who is visually impaired. Same thing for motor impairments, same thing for hearing impairments, and so on. So I personally, when I'm not hearing impaired, thankfully, but when I am in a noisy or loud place, I almost always turn on subtitles. So again, subtitles are considered an accessibility enhancement for people who are hearing impaired, but we all use subtitles when we're in loud places or when we cannot actually turn the volume on. So again, that is part of the curb cut effect. So just back to UserWay. UserWay has been around for about 5-6 years, and we work with many leading organizations in the US and internationally. So we work with governmental institutions, with the federal government, municipal governments, but also leading brands such as Disney, Coke, Duracell, Motley Fool, eBay, and many, many more companies. So what does UserWay actually provide? So you might already be familiar with UserWay's AI-powered accessibility widget. So it is a widget that you install on your website with just a couple of clicks, and we're going to be demonstrating that here today for you, that allows the visitors of your website to manage and modify their experience on the site. So rather than having to kind of recode the site to enable for those color contrast minimums as required by the ADA, or to ensure that your site is keyboard navigable or works well with screen readers for people who are visually impaired, UserWay takes care of that for you. And it happens kind of in 2 dimensions. First of all are the user-triggered remediations. And the second layer is the AI-powered code fixes, which are invisible to you and to the site visitor, but we are actually making modifications to the accessibility layer of the site's DOM, the document object model. So we're actually modifying the code, even though you as a sighted user might not specifically be aware that anything has changed on the website. UserWay also provides additional services, and one of those are scanning and monitoring. So we have tools for developers who actually are looking to remediate and fix their code at the code level, rather than relying on AI and automation to do that for them. And we also provide manual audits and professional services. So let's take a look just really quickly at UserWay's AI-powered accessibility widget. Essentially, we have a free widget as well. The free widget doesn't provide ADA compliance, and it provides less of the functions that you'll see in UserWay's full widget. So the ability to modify the contrast, to apply a dyslexia font, to increase the cursor size, highlight links, and so on. So these are provided only as user-triggered functions, user-triggered remediations. None of what I mentioned earlier about the AI applying changes to the code are done automatically in the free version. If you're looking for that and for ADA compliance and for that shield against lawsuits, what you're looking for is the full AI-powered accessibility widget. We are providing, and we'll cover that today also, preferred pricing for Duda customers starting at $19 a month. And so we'll actually show you in a minute also how to install that. This is pricing that is not available on UserWay's website directly, but only via Duda. So moving on, here are just an example of, this isn't the full list of some of the accessibility functions and remediations and enhancements provided by UserWay. And again, we will demonstrate this in just a few minutes. So increasing text size, applying contrast changes, applying a more navigable experience for people with visual impairments, applying form validation and making sure your forms are accessible, identifying any broken links and remediating those, identifying any ambiguous links like click here, download now, read more. Those are accessibility violations. Automatically identifying the context and looking at the adjacent context around that and applying detailed descriptions to any ambiguous links, ensuring that you're heading structures are hierarchical and fully accessible, and many, many more functions. So here are just a sample of a few websites already on the Duda platform that have launched with UserWay. So at wellness.org, YOLO Realtors, and many more. We have only over 1,000 websites already implemented UserWay on Duda in the last 45 days alone. So now we're going to go over to the live demo. So I'm going to hand it over to Ben to continue the presentation from here.
Great, Ben, you should be in presenter here.
Yeah, it's we're working on it. There we go. Okay, so here we are inside the sites dashboard. You can see your list of sites that you're working on. Now, the first step is choosing which site you're going to work on. So we're going to click Edit on this site here. And just to show you, this is it live now. This is our accessibility agency website. So now we're going to go back to the editor, and we're going to click on App Store on the left panel over here. We're going to go to the search box and type in UserWay. And here you'll see the accessibility by UserWay add-on app, and we're going to click Add App. Next, we're going to accept the terms so that Duda and UserWay can work together to make sure that the widget is functioning correctly. And we're going to click Add. Once that's done, you'll get a success screen, and we're going to click Got It. This brings us to the Configuring Your Widget section, and this is your admin panel. So here we have Configure Your Widget, where you'll be able to pick your icon, you'll be able to pick your color for your widget, you'll be able to position your widget, you'll be able to create an accessibility statement, view reports, and tutorials, and we'll go into each of those later. So here we are in our configuring widget section. So here we have 4 different options for an accessibility icon. You can also change the size of those icons. So here we have large or small. So as you saw before, my site is purple. So I'm going to change my widget to be purple to match my brand. And then I'm going to go down here and I get to choose where my icon will show on the site. So here I'm going to choose the right side. But in addition, I can also turn on and move it pixel by pixel to the positioning that I would like. I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to click Save Settings. Okay, once I've done that, we are set and I'm going to hit Publish. I'm going to close this. And now I'm going to go here and I'm going to refresh the site. It may take a couple of refreshes. And here you go. On the right side, you have your accessibility widget. And here you see it is opened. Okay, I'm going to close it. And we're going to go back because right now we just installed the free widget. But we highly recommend, in order for you to be fully compliant and fully protected, and we want you to make sure that you upgrade to the full widget. So when you click back, you'll see the upgrade button, and we're going to click upgrade. And here we have 2 different plans, starter and plus. Under 10,000 monthly page views, you'll be in the starter category, and over 10,000 monthly page views, you'll be in the plus category. So I'm just going to click upgrade, and we got our success screen. I'm going to click got it. And that brings us back to the configure your UserWay widget. And here we're going to now go to the accessibility statement. The accessibility statement is required for compliance. It basically breaks down what your site is doing to make sure that it is accessible. And UserWay will generate that for you. And you can go in later and edit it. fill out this form and click Generate Accessibility Statement, and you will get in your email a text version and an HTML version, and you'll want to put that on your site and make sure to link through your footer as well. And now under Reports and Docs, you'll be able to see an accessibility report for your site. So here you can see that the AI is fixing 70 violations. It also breaks it down by the guidelines for accessibility. And there's different levels, so it's broken down here so you know how important they are. A and AA need to be fixed. AAA are optional. And the reason why there's only one page here is because as the AI is being loaded and the widget loaded on additional pages, you'll see more and more pages of the site. And then you can click here and you'll be able to get this report in your email for you to share with whomever needs it. In our last tab over here, you have your video tutorials on how to use the widget to make your site more accessible. Now, just to recap from here, So we're just going to recap the steps very quickly. So first, you're going to search the Duda App Store for UserWay. You're going to click Add App, agree to the terms, configure the widget, click Publish. Then you're set to go. And then we highly recommend to make sure that you're fully compliant and protected to upgrade to the full version. And here you go. And this video will be available with all the steps so you can review them, not to worry. And I'm going to pass it back to Allon so he can show you the widget in action.
All right, great, thank you. So let me just make sure that I bring it up. Can you see my screen okay? I hope so. So essentially what we have now is UserWay's AI-powered accessibility widget appearing here on our website. So successful installation. Now let's review some of the functions that we have in the widget itself. On the top, first of all, you'll see that you can actually access your widget with a hotkey. So if you hit Control-U on your keyboard, you're able to engage with the widget directly like that. Next, you see as you scroll down is the language switcher. So if you want to engage with your website, if a user wants to engage with your website in a different language, then they'll be able to fully translate your site to make it more accessible to them as they browse and experience your site in their own language. So it will automatically identify their settings and will always serve the website in the language of their choice. To reset it, we can go back, revert the translation, and continue here in English. Now, we support over 40 different languages. We also have a built-in dictionary. So the ADA requires that any complex words, acronyms, and abbreviations be fully defined and explained on your website. So we provide you the ability to do that. So for example, I see the word wireframe here, and I'm not sure what that means. A user on your site can just look that up. Wireframe. Okay, in this case, Merriam-Webster doesn't have a definition for that. Let's try another one, strategy. There we go, and that can actually be announced as well.
Strategy. Noun. The science and art of employing.
Okay, so that we also have a built-in screen reader. So people who are visually impaired and want to kind of use the built-in screen reader, we make that easy for them. We are able also to change the contrast of the site to make sure that the site is meeting those contrast minimums. You can desaturate it. You can apply a dark contrast, light contrast. This is helpful for people with various visual disabilities and color blindness. Also, any text that do not meet those color contrast minimums. So for example, right here, if you look at see our work, we do have a nice gradient on that that does not necessarily meet the color contrast minimums. So applying smart contrast will ensure that does meet the color contrast minimums, and that is applied for other parts of the site as well. So we identify which specific objects and content need to be applied that function. You can also highlight links, increase the text size, increase the spacing, pause any animation. So that's really important for people with exposure to photosensitivity or to epilepsy. And again, you can run many of these functions combined, including increasing your cursor size, applying a dyslexia font. So more than 10 to 15% of the population does have dyslexia, and UserWay developed this dyslexia font in-house to improve readability and reading comprehension and reading fluidity for people with dyslexia. So it reduces the mirroring and confusion that may be accompanied with many typefaces online. We also have different cursor types. So we have a reading mask to help focus your eyes on a specific part of the screen, and a reading guide to help guide your eyes to various contents as you're reading through them. We also have the ability to apply tooltips for various areas on the screen, identify the page structure, which provides a breakdown of headings, landmarks, and links. So if you wanted to identify or jump to a specific part of that page, you could do that very easily. We also have additional functions for text align, line height, reading flow, which is a new technology that we recently implemented, and much, much more. So that's kind of a quick overview of the widget functions themselves. And I'll hand it back over to Ben to give any further recap, or Russ, any further recap from what we shared, and also move on to taking any questions from the viewers.
Sure. So Russ, I think you can pull up the,
Sure.
Just the pricing page, and we can take questions. I think that's
great. We do have a few questions on pricing, so I'll jump in once we cover the basics there.
I lost it. All right. Now.
Yeah. So Ben, we're seeing the different. Yeah.
I see
the wrong screen here.
I see it.
Cool.
I'm on that. Okay, I got it now. Here we go.
Great. Oh, yeah. Just share, right? Yeah. Or just present. Yep.
You good now?
Yeah, we can see it. Go for it, man.
Yeah, so our pricing, so we have the free widget,
yep,
which gives you basic coverage and accessibility functionality. We have our full widget, and the pricing depends on if you have over 10,000 monthly page views or less than 10,000 monthly page views. With the full AI-powered accessibility widget, you have your accessibility statement, you have the AI working for you constantly, and you are protected and compliant, and you have nothing to worry about.
Great. Cool. Let me jump in here, Ben. We have a question. Bill is asking, can you discuss the differences between using our own UserWay agency account versus using the App Store version? Looks like Duda price is better for small/low traffic sites at least. Bill says I have to leave soon, so I may hear the recording. So Mostly just like what's the difference between the two? How should agencies think about this? Yeah.
I'll be happy to address that. So we do have, as part of our relationship with Duda, kind of preferred pricing for Duda. And if you're already a registered agency with UserWay, then please talk to us, and we'll be happy to kind of address any specific questions you might have about the differences in the relationship that we already have with you compared to the relationship that you can get through Duda. So the idea with Duda is that in one click, you can enable UserWay on any of the sites you manage. But again, if you're already in a relationship with UserWay prior to today, then you probably have most of that functionality already kind of built into your management console via UserWay. So
definitely. Cool. I'm going to jump into just a few more questions here that we've had along the way. Danny asked a little earlier, one is UserWay going to replace AudioEye that's already in the App Store? And primarily part of the question is what are the differences between UserWay and AudioEye?
All right, so I'm not really familiar with the AudioEye installation or implementation on the Duda App Store, but as far as UserWay, that's what I can talk to. UserWay is the industry leader with the biggest number of installs. We are also the developer of many proprietary technologies available only through UserWay, not available through any of the other technologies out there today. So if you want to kind of deep dive and install both versions and compare to see which one is better for you, then obviously you're welcome to do that. UserWay does also provide a statement of compliance, accessibility reports, and kind of white glove VIP service by our accessibility specialists and development team. So we know that we kind of excel on the services aspect and not only on the technology aspect. But we're happy to discuss that further also if you have any kind of really specific questions on like a feature versus feature basis.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and I think I can also just quickly highlight a few differences here depending on how we want to approach it. One is AudioEye doesn't have a free option, right, to get started with. Two is AudioEye, they primarily do kind of manual reviews, and this is why you see their price point being higher. So they have someone manually review the site and implement some changes and do those type of things, where UserWay, when you upgrade, it's going to be based on their AI and their large scale of sites that they're addressing already that's in the market. So really it's just a different approach to solving some of the AudioEye, or sorry, some of the accessibility issues on sites, and going down different paths. I think both, when you upgrade, both are going to help you solve ADA problems broadly. So yeah. Cool. Let's jump on to the next question, which came in from Paul. In the report, do we get instructions on how to fix violations that are found? Kind of what are the guidance, and what do you guys do automatically when an upgrade happens?
Sure. So that's a really good question. Essentially, UserWay will go through every line of code on your site as the page is loaded and identify any violations that are based on the UserWay proprietary rule base that keeps your site evergreen and always compliant. So our COO, Dr. Lionel Wahlberger, is actually on the board of the W3C accessibility initiatives. And so we're already building in the future of WCAG 2.2, 2.3 into UserWay today. So we know what the WCAG roadmap is going to look like. To make a long story short, essentially, we rely on automation to make the most, to do the heavy lifting for you. At the same time, we do offer a dashboard that allows you to go in and see all of the changes that were made with automation and override them if you want to. So if we add an automated image alt to an image, it might be something like two people walking down the beach, you're able to then go in and kind of enhance and modify that if you want. That will already have been made accessible and compliant for you, but we do give you that what we call human in the loop aspect to go in and further modify your layer on top of the UserWay AI. So we do provide you with that interface via the management console. You could sign into your management console and go through one by one. And if you wanted a deeper look at which changes should be made via the code level if you're looking to actually, make accessibility changes via the code, then we have different products for that for development teams themselves.
Yep, great. Cool. Next question, just from John, is does this work on other CMSs or website platforms?
Yep, actually UserWay is installed, first of all, we're platform agnostic. So while we do have an installation with Duda and many other CMS platforms out there, which you can go to our website and see what they are, but just out of respect for Duda, we're not going to mention their names. Essentially, we are platform agnostic, and we are installed also natively on many other platforms. But we also work with custom-built websites. So if you're just kind of building your own website on Angular, with Java backend or React website, then you could just embed our JavaScript and then manage everything through the widget and the management console in parallel. So again, platform agnostic. We work with many platforms out there today.
Allon, I actually have a question from myself. I'm kind of curious of your view on kind of the evolving landscape of accessibility. Recently, I think the Justice Department announced that they're looking into changing some of the rules here, at least in the US. I'm curious what you think this will mean, in the longer term for accessibility. Do you think like this is really gonna, give kind of a kick in the butt to a lot of people to really, dive down it? Do you think, nah, it's not really gonna change anything? I'm kind of curious what you think.
Yeah, so we actually did hear Biden talk about the issues of accessibility over the past few months. And as you mentioned, the Justice Department did raise awareness around the issue of digital accessibility. So we are actually seeing kind of an increase in awareness and increase of engagement with accessibility technologies, specifically with UserWay from our side, and more awareness and more organizations actually allocating budgets towards this because they understand it is a really important issue. So if we go back to the curb cut effect, an accessible website doesn't only help people with disabilities, but at the end of the day, we're looking at better coding practices, more awareness around, is this form operating for someone who is just using a keyboard to navigate? If you're hitting enter or if you're hitting tab, are you able to engage with that? If you just happen to, have other issues, is the website working the way that it should in the most inclusive way? So as a result of what we're seeing with kind of governmental initiatives for accessibility, increased awareness, and at the end of the day, that really benefits everyone.
Yep, got it. Yeah, I think one of the things that we see is we at Duda, we see a lot of our agencies and web professionals just trying to cut this off at the head a little bit and kind of give warning to a lot of their clients of like, hey, this is something you guys probably need to think about, and as a risk, in the longer term for your websites, this is a growing trend. So we see our agencies kind of discussing some of these exact topics of, one, this is becoming more prominent, there are more lawsuits out there, and two, it is gathering, momentum, whether that be, a little bit slowly, but the momentum is picking up, I think, globally on this topic. So great. Paul had a follow-up question to his to the one that we asked a few minutes ago, just about fixing violations. He says, in the management console in the Duda, is the management console in the Duda widget or on UserWay?
Okay, so we offer kind of two areas. The first is the configuration area that's built into Duda. So with that allows you to configure your widget's look and feel, download your accessibility report, see some tutorials as Ben was presenting earlier. If you wanted a more in-depth view, then there's two ways to access that through UserWay. One is by going to manage.userway.org, and another is through the widget itself. You're actually able to sign in through the widget, and we have tutorials on that on our website. So if you go to userway.org/tutorials, you're able to kind of gain a better understanding of how to sign into the widget directly, and then run through each of those remediations that were applied to your website. Another really important video that we recommend seeing, so maybe I can put this in chat, it would be at UserWay, https, userway.org/AI. So that includes a video that provides you a really high-level overview of what the AI changes, how it works, and what access it gives to you as the site administrator. So we highly recommend you visiting userway.org/AI.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Great. So one other question here from John. He's asking, does Duda provide tech support? And I'll take this one. So the answer is, yeah, Duda will provide kind of if you contact Duda about an app, we're going to try and answer your question. If we can't answer your question, we're going to reach out to the UserWay team and get an answer from them. Of course, you can also go directly to the UserWay team and get support there as well. But Duda will also help you out along the way, John. So either direction you go, you're going to get help as it works. Great. We do have Parker saying, I love this, gents. He's asking, how does the user learn how to engage with the functions? One of my clients has a retired customer base, so ease of adoption is key. So this is what Parker is asking.
Awesome question. So UserWay actually builds its functions to be fully self-explanatory. We encourage people to actually go in and experiment, to click the buttons. It's not going to break anything on your site. It actually, change things to make them a little different. And with some people, this different mode is better and more helpful for them. So we do encourage your users to kind of go through and play and engage with it. And again, the functions are self-explanatory. So bigger text, that's the name of a function. You could actually go click that and you'll see the text size increase. Line height, it will change the line height to make that a little bit more spaced, so you can have a more accessible experience in engaging with text on the site. And if anything is unclear, then please communicate that to us. We are always improving our product and looking for ways to making it simpler and more intuitive, and of course self-explanatory. Having said that, install UserWay, even if it's just a free version, experiment with it and see what works for you and how the different functions kind of interact with your site.
Awesome, that's great. Cool. Kind of one question I wanted to ask, and it can be a little sensitive, so I just want to make sure I ask it the right way here. You guys do provide a free option, and I think it's important to be clear of, does it 100% cover accessibility, or is it like user triggered, and then upgrading is what covers kind of 100% of accessibility? Like how do you guys kind of think about this in terms of the free versus paid kind of options?
Right. So we have a page on the site that really provides a detailed breakdown of the differences between the free and paid versions. So I'm going to put that in chat right now. HTTPS. It's userway.org/compare. So hopefully that's kind of easy to remember, userway.org/compare. Essentially, the number of functions in the free version is smaller than the number of functions in the paid version. So what you're not going to have in the free version is the built-in dictionary, the built-in screen reader, the reading flow, and a few more functions that appear and really help with accessibility. That's one thing. So you can see the difference. Another difference is that the free version will not identify violations in the site's code. If there is an image that's missing, the free version is not going to auto-populate that. With the AI version, it's going to look for that image. It's going to send that to our backend for AI and computer vision processing and return a description. Now that happens in hundreds of milliseconds. It happens asynchronously. It does not affect your website's performance. The performance is just as good with UserWay or without. And it will make sure that your code or your DOM, your document object model, and the accessibility layer is modified in real time to ensure that it is compliant with the ADA. So and I'll just kind of say this in one more different way. If you have a blind person who is engaging with your site using a screen reader, with the free widget, they might not be able to hear everything properly in an accessible manner. With the AI widget, they will. And that's, I guess, kind of the most important acid test that someone can have.
Cool. We're getting low on questions, but Danny has I think a good and relevant one, and you kind of touched on it a second ago, Allon. Do you see any website performance issues with a tool like UserWay? Any effect on Google's core web vitals by using the tool?
Right, that's a really good question. So essentially, UserWay will not affect your website loading time. There is a single JavaScript that's really small. It's about, I think, 3 kilobytes, so extremely optimized, that just loads the icon. So it just calls the icon. Now, once a user engages with the icon after the website is loaded, then it calls all those accessibility functions asynchronously. Even if you don't engage with the widget, the user doesn't engage with the widget, someone who is visually impaired, who is looking for that accessible code on the site, those changes are actually going to be made asynchronously as well after the onload event. So Google will not identify that there's a delay or that any heavy JavaScript or processes are running that are delaying that precious onload event that Google is kind of looking for and that first paint. So we really work to optimize the performance of UserWay, and we work with many organizations who go through like line by line and dissect the UserWay logic. We work with banks and security companies. So you can rest assured that the performance of UserWay is as good as it can get. And of course, we're continuously improving and optimizing as technologies evolve. So hopefully that answers that question.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Cool. That is it from a questions perspective. I just want to say thank you to both Allon and Ben for joining us today and doing this webinar alongside us. Excited to have you guys live and helping Duda customers.
Great, and a big thank you to everyone who attended today. A big thank you to you, Russ, for coordinating and managing and helping set this up. And it was a real pleasure. And we look forward to anyone reaching out to us or to Russ if you do have any further questions. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.